So it's been reported repeatedly that there's a guy called Les Wexner, owner of the biggest house in Ohio. Who is Wexner, and what is his relationship to Epstein? And before you begin, because I want people to keep this in mind as they're listening, as far as I know, and I think this is correct, Wexner, who I believe is still alive, has never been interviewed by the Department of Justice. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's correct as far as I know. So Les Wexner, he owns limited brands, L brands. So Victoria's Secret he owns, Abercrombie and Fitch, a lot of the places that you see when you go into the mall. I don't think it's the case anymore, but for a long time he was the largest clothing manufacturer and distributor in the United States. Billionaire, incredibly wealthy guy. As you said, owns the largest and most expensive house in the state of Ohio, where he lives in Columbus. And the second largest and most expensive house in the state of Ohio was owned by Jeffrey Epstein and was directly behind Wexner's house.
What?
Yeah. So Wexner, he was introduced to Wexner through this network of people, and very, very quickly becomes. The nature of their relationship is still kind of a mystery because it's so hard to explain in any terms that you can really draw a plausible story for. Within a very short period of time, he known this Epstein guy like 2 years, right? And not because he had worked at his company for those 2 years and was so squared away, anything like that. We don't exactly know what he was doing during those 2 years, but he knew him 2 years when he signed full power of attorney over his entire estate, Les Wexner, talking billions of dollars, the largest clothing manufacturing corporation in the country, or a company in the country, to the point where this was not a limited power of attorney. Jeffrey Epstein could sign...
Wait, he gives Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over everything?
Jeffrey Epstein could take out loans in his name. He could sign his tax returns. He had full power of attorney over the Wexner estate. Soon after that, Wexner's mother gets sick, and her spot on the Wexner Foundation board, which is how Wexner disposed of most of his money, opens up. He puts Jeffrey Epstein on there, and he basically runs the board of the foundation for about 15 years, controlling a lot of where that money went and what happened.
15 years?
Yeah. And Wexner alleged, this was way later on, after everything had kind of come out, so who kind of knows? Everybody's kind of trying to distance themselves from Epstein at this point. But he says that Epstein stole a lot of money from him through his, control over the foundation, everything. He probably did, for all I know, but... I'm shocked to learn, and I'm learning this, that you're positive Jeffrey Epstein had power of attorney? Yes.
Over
you can read that anywhere, yeah. For 16 years, by the way. For 16 years. And so...
has Wexner ever been asked, why would you give...
I don't even think forget the Department of Justice, I don't think he's given any interviews to journalists about it. Maybe he'll come on here and sit in my seat and talk to you. I kind of doubt it.
I would be polite. I'm genuinely fascinated by that detail, because that is, a man who builds... Like all of these characters, they're unusual people. They're not average people. They're extraordinary people. By definition, you build $1 billion company, good or bad, you're not like everybody else, and you're good. You're good in business, and you're careful and judicious, and you don't hand power of attorney over to some guy you've never worked with.
Especially
he met 2 years ago.
He had his own executives, people who worked for him for decades, coming to him being like, "Boss, who is this guy? Like, what are you doing? Why are you giving him so much authority and power?" There was a guy that Wexner had known for decades. They'd go to Ohio State football games together. They'd do dinners together. They were good friends. And he tells this story about how Jeffrey Epstein comes into the picture, and he's going to meet him for the first time. Epstein goes over to his office, and Epstein shows up like an hour late for the meeting. And he gets there, and the first thing he does when he sits down in his chair, and this is just one of those things that this isn't a faux pas. This is a message. He sits down in the chair at this important businessman. It's a good friend of his boss or whatever he was, Les Wexner. He sits down in the chair and he kicks his feet up on the guy's desk. The guy was like, okay, that's interesting. This guy's not Wexner's secretary, apparently.
Quite a power move, yeah.
And so Wexner there in that meeting gets on the phone with both of the guys, and he tells his friend, Jeffrey's family, treat him like family. And so eventually, a little later down the line, that guy has a disagreement with Epstein, and they get into an argument about something. And from that moment on, he says he couldn't reach Wexner by phone. He got cut off immediately, completely, with no explanation. This guy had known him for decades because he had a tiff with Jeffrey Epstein. And so this guy clearly had either some kind of a powerful hold over Wexner for one reason or another.
Well, by definition, we can say that.
So we want to brag, but this has got to be the most pro-dog podcast on the entire internet. They're almost always dogs, actually, just off camera. So dogs are non-negotiable. Dogs are the best, and people who love dogs really, really love them. We can relate. And so for that reason, we are thrilled to announce a new partner called Dutch Pet. It's the fastest growing telehealth service for your pets. It's on a mission to create affordable, quality veterinary care at any time, no matter where you are. They'll get your beloved pet what they need, and they do it at a high speed. And by the way, if you ever brought your dog to the vet, the dog doesn't like it. They can smell the darkness sometimes. It's true. Sometimes you have to go to the vet, but if you can avoid it, you should, and you want to. And Dutch.com has vets who can treat over 150 animal conditions with just 10 minutes on the phone. You never have to leave home. You never have to scare or upset your dog. No wasted time. You don't have to wait weeks for an in-office appointment, and you don't waste money. Unlimited visits and follow-ups for no extra cost. Free shipping on all products for up to 5 pets. Membership starts as little as $11 per month, and Dutch.com saves most customers nearly $1,000 a year. We use it. It's awesome as dog owners. It sounds too good to be true, probably, but it's absolutely real. Visit Dutch.com/Tucker to learn more. Use the code Tucker for up to $50 off your veterinary care plan per year. That's a year of unlimited vet visits for $82 a year. Your pets and your wallet will thank you. This is going to change the game, and we're proud to be partnered with them.
Or they were working together in some other way. So Wexner's another one of these interesting cats, right? Like where his mentor was a real estate guy mainly, but he did a lot of things named Max Fisher. And I think he was originally from Indiana, Max Fisher, but lived in Ohio, I believe. But anyway, either way, he was Wexner's mentor for a while. Not his mentor like when he was just getting started. Wexner's already rich by this point. It's not about that. Fisher's his big main thing was philanthropic contributions and management for Jewish and Zionist and State of Israel related causes, right? And so when you look at like what the Wexner Foundation did, for example, they would give a little bit of money to Ohio State University here and there, and like a few other things locally there in Columbus and around the state of Ohio. But the vast majority of it went to Zionist organizations, Jewish organizations, things like that. Which fine. Fisher's the guy that sort of did what Yitzhak Shamir did with Robert Maxwell, but for Les Wexner. You go to him and you say you've got an obligation here to the Jewish state. You're a Jewish billionaire. You're a big important person in the most powerful country in the world. Like, you have an obligation to your people. And again, it's a powerful call. And so it really came to, in a lot of ways, define Wexner's life after that. And so in the 1990s, this was in the newspapers and stuff during the Clinton administration, really, really interesting. Les Wexner and Edgar Bronfman, which if that name sounds familiar, it's because I mentioned
Sorry,
it.
I want to just pause. I was just handed this.
We got breaking news?
To some extent, this is from the President of the United States, released on Truth Social just now. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity, I'm quoting, given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony, subject to court approval. The scam, all caps, perpetrated by Democrats, comma, should end, comma, right now, exclamation point.
All right, shut the cameras off, guys. We're done here.
Well, I still think okay, that's pretty good. I have no idea where this leads, if anywhere. I certainly hope it leads to greater disclosure. That's good for everyone, including the president. And it's good for everyone. Disclosure is good, but it doesn't change, in my opinion, the need for anyone who's interested in the story to know what the story actually is. So I hope you will continue.
Yeah. So in the 1990s, Wexner and Edgar Bronfman, who I mentioned earlier, one of the heirs to the Seagram's liquor fortune, who was one of Jeffrey Epstein's clients when he was working at Bear Stearns, those two guys founded a group called the Study Group, but it's more commonly known as the Mega Group. That came out in the papers a little bit in the late 1990s. Not a lot was written about it. It was a group of, at first, about 20, but then later it expanded, Jewish billionaires in the United States and Canada who would meet at least twice a year to get together and just coordinate how they were distributing their philanthropic money, what their focuses were for that year, just making sure they were all acting in concert to help serve the interests of Israel in their respective countries. And they would finance scholars and other professionals to write up papers and studies and analyses for the Israeli government, for Israeli intelligence, for example, and they were very plugged into that. And very, very, very connected to the Israeli government and specifically Israeli intelligence through the work that they would do for the Israelis. And so again, just one more sort of connection there to the intelligence world among people who were very, very, very close to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, you watch the Netflix documentary or anything about Jeffrey Epstein, one of the things that really does stick out to you is this guy, okay, there's rich and then there's rich. And Jeffrey Epstein was rich. I mean, apparently, right? This is a guy who...
He certainly lived like it.
He had the second largest... I mean, when you see the pictures of this place he lived in Ohio, the pictures of this ranch he lived on in New Mexico, he had a $70 million house in the largest private residence, I believe, in New York City or in Manhattan.
How did he buy that house?
Les Wexner gave it to him.
Lex Wexner gave him a $70 million house?
Yeah, I don't think it was worth $70 million at the time, but when he got arrested, it was, yeah. Yeah, gave it to him.
Worth more now?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, and no one's ever asked Les Wexner, why did you sign over power of attorney over your whole life and give, among other things, a $70 million property, the biggest private residence in Manhattan, to Jeffrey Epstein? No one.
I mean, I don't think he's given anybody the opportunity.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.